On a frigid winter night, I was jolted awake by a call from my mother-in-law. "Bring the wood for the fireplace to my room," she commanded. In this blizzard, I questioned silently, having just finished my bath. But Nancy persisted. "It's unreasonable for someone my age to venture outside in such a storm. As a daughter-in-law, you should act without needing instructions. How thoughtless of you." She continued to gripe on the phone, and while I had plenty of rebuttals, arguing seemed futile. After tucking my son into bed, I braved the snowy night and made my way to the storage shed alone. "It's freezing out here, and I can't find the wood. Is it not in here?" Just as doubt crept in, the shed was plunged into darkness. Startled, I rushed to the exit, only to find the door locked from the outside. Stuck. No way. Locked in. Did Nancy set this up? I felt a wave of despair, unable to predict what would happen next. My name is Mary, a 22-year-old housewife committed to caring for my family. I live with my husband Ken and our almost 2-year-old son Jason. I lost my father to a traffic accident when I was young, leaving my mother to support our family on her own. Working at a construction company, she single-handedly provided for my sisters Meg and me. Despite the hardships, she never complained and always wore a smile. She truly was an extraordinary person. Inspired by my mother's strength, I resolved to start working immediately after middle school, even though teachers and friends encouraged me to pursue high school for a brighter future. My determination wavered during the final summer of middle school when my mother expressed her wish for me to continue my education. When she learned that I planned to skip high school, she cried, blaming herself. Seeing her cry for the second time since my father's funeral broke my heart. I couldn't bear to add to her sorrow, so I decided to attend high school after all. Despite this, I took on a part-time job during high school to help support my mother. That's when I met Ken. 4 years older than me and a college student, he worked at the same convenience store where I had a part-time job. Among the part-timers, he was a dependable senior. Despite my hectic schedule, juggling morning newspaper deliveries and store shifts after school, Ken would kindly assist me with my tasks. His kindness and reliability won me over, and I found myself falling for him. After he graduated and was preparing to leave the job, I confessed my feelings, and we started dating. Once I graduated from high school, I began working at a supermarket. A year later, I discovered I was pregnant. When we informed our parents, Ken's family opposed our marriage, arguing we were too young. However, with my mother's heartfelt persuasion and Ken's persistent pleas, they grudgingly accepted our decision. At 20, we managed to have our wedding. Although Ken had siblings, his parents, especially attached to their eldest son, were hesitant to accept me, given that I was raised by a single mother. Their strong attachment to Ken seemed unusual to others. When our marriage was finalized, she confronted me angrily, saying, "Did you think having a child first would secure your place with my son? That's manipulative. I have no intention of accepting you into the family." Her words only deepened my anxiety about married life. Our new home was built right next to my in-laws. After we got married, Ken's parents bought the vacant lot next door for us. I repeatedly suggested to Ken that we reconsider living so close to his parents, but he brushed off my concerns, saying, "They can help with our child. It's not a problem." After the wedding, it became clear that Ken was heavily reliant on his mother, a classic mama's boy. He remained indifferent even when his mother spoke harshly to me. When I was ill during my pregnancy and needed rest, Nancy criticized me, saying my son works hard, and you're just lying around all day, neglecting the housework. What do you plan to do about it? Frustrated, I confronted Ken, asking him to explain to Nancy that my doctor had advised me to rest. However, Ken sided with his mother, saying, "Are you implying my mother is wrong? She's right. You're just resting and not taking care of the housework." His response was a blow to my spirits. I had relied on him during our part-time jobs, but now I was growing increasingly concerned about our future. My anxiety only intensified. Then, on a day marked by a rare heavy snowfall, Ken was out late for a meeting. While I was settling Jason into bed, Nancy called, "What are you doing, Mary?" Even though I told her I was in the middle of putting Jason to bed, she insisted that I fetch wood from the storage shed for her room, as she had run out due to the cold. In this blizzard, I hesitated, especially since I had already bathed, but she pressed on. An old woman like me shouldn't have to brave such a snowy night. As a daughter-in-law, you should anticipate my needs without being told. How thoughtless of you. Although I had several objections, I didn't want to escalate the situation. Considering how difficult it must be to be without heat in this cold, I decided to go ahead with her request. After putting Jason to bed, I ventured to the shed situated between our house and my in-laws. Amidst the snowy landscape, I unlocked the door with trembling hands, turned on the light, and stepped inside. As I searched the area Nancy had pointed out, I found no wood. Is there really any wood here? I muttered to myself, reaching for my phone. Suddenly, everything went dark. What? This has to be a joke, I exclaimed, bewildered. I rushed to the exit, only to find it locked from the outside and immovable. No way, I'm locked in. Did Nancy set this up? I muttered to myself, feeling a sinking sense of dread. While I have faced harassment before, I never expected her to go this far. Outside, a rare snowstorm raged, and inside the shed, the cold was bone-chilling and potentially dangerous. I was also anxious about Jason being home alone. I tried calling Ken. Hello. His voice was slurred, clearly indicating he was intoxicated. Help, I'm locked in the shed, I pleaded, but Ken remained unmoved, scolding me. You must have been careless to lock yourself in. Just calm down, he said, shifting the blame onto me. His response only fueled my frustration, and I ended the call, snapping, Fine, I won't rely on you. Whatever happens, I don't care. Realizing I had been wrong to depend on him, I resolved to find a way out on my own. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I noticed a small window at the back of the shed. I hurried over, only to find it barred and escape impossible. I can't get out of here, I muttered in defeat, returning to the door. It was the only entrance and it wouldn't budge. Even in this desperate situation, I continued to search for a way to escape, knowing that my chances were growing slimmer. Shivering and exhausted, I pulled out my phone to call the police. As I fumbled with the screen, I heard voices outside. It must be the neighbors, I whispered to myself and called out, Help! After shouting several times, the elderly couple next door finally responded. Are you okay? They shouted from outside the shed. I'm locked in and can't get out. Please help, I cried, on the verge of tears. They quickly unlocked the door, and upon seeing my tearful state, they realized something was seriously wrong. They offered, Why don't you come stay with us for the night? Grateful for their kindness, I decided to take Jason and spend the night in the warmth and safety of their home. The elderly couple revealed that my in-laws had a reputation in the neighborhood for mistreating their daughters-in-law, and that my sister-in-law had also been locked in and had a heated argument with them. Knowing this, they had been worried about me. I expressed my profound gratitude to them and, exhausted from the ordeal and the snow, slept deeply through the night without stirring. In the morning, I was startled by commotion outside. I quickly dressed, left Jason with the couple, and stepped outside to find a crowd gathered in front of my house with ambulances and police cars parked nearby. What's going on? I wondered anxiously as I made my way back home. Ken met me with an angry tone. Where have you been, Mary? I explained. Last night, I got locked in the shed, and after getting help, I spent the night at the neighbor's house. However, Ken's anger didn't ease. He told me that Nancy had been found collapsed in the shed early that morning. I wondered if Nancy had come to check on me after the night had passed. As I had tried to escape from the shed, I must have disturbed its contents, causing a mess. It seemed Nancy had entered the shed in the early hours, accidentally tripping over a ball, hitting her head, and eventually collapsing. She was taken to the hospital, but tragically she passed away. Ken and my father-in-law blamed me, saying, This is your fault, despite my protests that I had been locked in the shed. They refused to listen. Realizing that arguing was pointless, I decided to divorce Ken and leave the house with Jason. My brother-in-law Jack said, I will choose a different path for my father and brother. If Mary leaves, I will cut ties with the family as well. My father-in-law and Ken were enraged, insisting that I shouldn't divorce or sever ties so abruptly. Despite Ken's adamant refusal to end our marriage, my decision was resolute. It's tragic that Nancy died, but I can't overlook what she did to me. I have proof that I was locked in the shed. If necessary, I'll submit the video to the police, I said, holding up my phone. Ken attempted to undermine the evidence by destroying the phone, but he never acknowledged his mother's actions. I was shocked by his inability to understand. I should let you know, I continued, that my sister Meg recently married a lawyer. The video from the shed can be used as evidence of emotional distress, and I plan to seek compensation. We will proceed with the divorce on that basis. Ken's demeanor shifted abruptly. Wait, Jack is a lawyer? Compensation? You must be joking. Not at all. What my mother did was inexcusable, and her death wasn't an accident. I'm sorry for everything, but we need to move forward with the divorce, I replied. After some negotiation with my mother and Jack advocating on our behalf, I managed to convince Ken and my father-in-law to agree to the divorce. Just as my mother had pleaded when I married, she now argued on my behalf, and with the lawyer's support and the video evidence, Ken finally relented. He signed the divorce papers reluctantly, and the divorce was finalized. I gained custody of Jason, and we returned to my parents' home. On that snowy day when I was locked in the shed, my only focus was escaping, and I didn't have time to feel afraid. However, as time passed, the memories of that night resurfaced, causing me to panic and cry. With support from Meg and Jack, I decided to pursue damages from Ken and my father-in-law. The video of my confinement, along with testimony from the neighbors, substantiated my claim, and the lawsuit was recognized. Initially, Ken and my father-in-law were adamant about retaining custody of Jason, but when I argued, if the neighbors hadn't rescued me, who knows what might have happened? Jason could have lost his mother. I can't allow someone who would harm a child's well-being to raise him. They were left speechless. After that, they ceased discussing Jason. All subsequent negotiations were handled through Jack. After I left, news of my in-laws' reputation for mistreating their daughters-in-law spread, and Ken and my father-in-law were increasingly viewed with disdain by the neighbors. Additionally, when Ken's boss discovered the mistreatment and learned that Ken had chosen to attend a drinking party rather than rescue me during the heavy snow, he was enraged. Ken was demoted, and his professional standing deteriorated. Eventually, Ken submitted his resignation and, along with my father-in-law, had to sell their house and land and relocate. After these events, my brother-in-law and his wife also severed ties with my in-laws. Back at my family home, I asked my mother to reduce her work hours to help care for Jason. She was thrilled to spend more time with her grandson. I started working at Jack's office, and it was a refreshing change to earn a salary after being a housewife for so long. I felt a strong sense of responsibility to persevere, knowing how much my mother had supported us. Later, through Jack, I met a lawyer who is over a decade older than me. He is incredibly kind and gentle. Jason has grown quite fond of him, and we often spend our weekends together. We plan to marry next year and are currently building a new house designed to include office space for his new law firm. The house is also being built as a duplex to accommodate my mother, who raised Meg and me on her own. With deep gratitude for everything she's done, I am enjoying a fulfilling life with my family, cherishing each moment.